Sunjin attempted to enter the hospital room. One of the nurses quickly stopped him, informing him that he was not allowed inside because there was an emergency in progress. His heart pounded in his chest as panic surged through him. He told the nurse that his wife was the one admitted in that room and desperately asked if she was okay and what exactly was happening. The nurse, clearly in a hurry to return to the room, told him they would explain everything later and urged him to wait. But Sunjin, overwhelmed by fear and anxiety, reached out and grabbed the edge of her coat, his voice filled with desperation. He pleaded to be told what was going on, explaining that he needed to know the truth. The woman inside that room was his wife, and he couldn't stay calm without understanding why doctors were rushing into her room. The nurse, though visibly tense and anxious to get back, paused. Seeing the anguish in his eyes, she softened. She confessed that she wasn't a doctor and didn't have all the details, but from what she had heard, Minsu was close to giving birth. However, complications had suddenly arisen, which was why it had become an emergency. She urged him to stay calm and wait, promising that the doctor would soon come to speak with him. With that, she quickly turned and disappeared back into the room. Sunjin stood frozen in the hallway. His head felt heavy and disoriented, his thoughts spinning wildly. His heart raced uncontrollably, and his legs felt weak. All he could think about was Minsu, alone in that room, likely terrified and in pain. He ached to be by her side, to hold her hand, and to tell her that everything would be okay. But instead he stood helpless outside, consumed by fear and worry. Meanwhile, at the prison, Kim's stepmother entered the visiting room with a look of disdain etched across her face. It was clear she detested being there. She glanced around the cold, sterile room with visible disgust, her body language tense and reluctant. But she had come, not out of concern for Kim, but to convince her husband that she truly cared about his daughter. It was nothing more than a performance. She sat down and waited, her eyes never softening. When Kim appeared and entered the room, her instinct was to turn around and return to her cell. But after a deep breath, she gathered herself and chose to face the woman who had tormented her for years. Kim walked over and sat down without a word, her eyes locking onto her stepmother's cold gaze. Her stepmother returned the look, studying her from head to toe in silence. Eventually, the silence was broken. With a mocking tone and a smirk, her stepmother remarked how well the prison uniform suited Kim. She expressed hope that the experience of incarceration would finally make Kim realize how worthless she was, and that prison was exactly where she belonged. Kim remained composed, though inside, her heart was boiling. She longed to lash out, to retaliate, but she forced herself to stay calm. With a hardened look, she asked her stepmother what she really wanted, whether she had come just to mock her. She warned her that if that was the goal, it wouldn't work, because her heart had long since turned to stone. Her stepmother laughed and told her that she was fortunate someone had even come to see her at all, pointing out that not even her own father wanted to look at her face again. The mention of her father hit Kim deeply. The thought that he didn't want to see her shattered something inside her. She tried to hate him for it, but couldn't. Deep down, she believed that he still cared, just as she still loved him, despite everything. Rising from her seat, Kim gave her stepmother a cold, emotionless look. She told her that if there was nothing else to be said, she was going back to her cell. As she turned to leave, her stepmother stood as well, raising her voice with cruel satisfaction. She told Kim to enjoy her last day's breathing, that soon she would be killed like a dog in prison, and that she and her family would finally live in peace, without her. Everything Kim had once dreamed of would belong to her and her daughter. Laughing wickedly, she turned and walked away. Kim remained standing, her entire body trembling with restrained fury. Just then, a prison officer approached her and gestured for her to return to her cell, but Kim asked for permission to make a phone call. The officer agreed, but informed her that she had only 10 minutes. Grateful, Kim thanked him and made her way to the phone booth. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. Unfolding it with shaking hands, she dialed the number written on it. As the phone rang, she stood there hoping, praying, that the call would be answered before her time ran out. Finally, someone picked up. It was Wubin.